The Angels non-tendered 2 players, but there are a handful of other players that were non-tendered that the Angels should check in on.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Now, the Angels did have to non-tender a couple of players. Who are they? We'll tell you. And there are some players from other teams that we think the Angels should check in on. And Bleacher Report predicted what the Angels' starting rotation would look like in 2026. And we're going to wrestle with the question, do we agree? Before we talk about the Angels, we want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Hey, we've been doing this for the last 5 years as the host of Locked On Angels. We're lifetime fans of this Angels club, talking about your favorite team Monday through Friday, and it's our hope and desire that you'll leave here a more informed fan, a smarter fan, and a better baseball fan, an Angels fan overall. And again, we're having these discussions Monday through Friday. Mike, the non-tender deadline was last week, and no, we're not talking about chicken tenders. We're talking about tendering a contract. Oh, man, now I'm hungry. Tender steak, chicken tenders. Let's get into it.
Not those tendies from Wendy's. I don't like that ad at all. So last Friday was the non-tender deadline. It was at 5 p.m. Teams have to decide whether or not to offer arbitration-eligible players a contract. Those that aren't offered a contract, they immediately become free agents. So the Angels declined to tender a contract to 2 people, Gustavo Compero and Sebastian Rivero, and they can be brought back on minor league deals. They did that last year with Bryce Teodosio. But these decisions, Jon, as of this recording, it moves the 40-man roster to 33 players. So there are 7 spots that the Angels are going to need to fill in that roster currently. And those 2 names are names that Angel fans have heard of in the last year, really, with Rivero coming up when O'Hoppe was on the injured list and Travis d'Arnaud was playing, and then Rivero would come in and play. Didn't play awful, right? And then we know about Gustavo Compero. He was playing right field, figuring that out, moved from the catcher position, and then had that ankle injury that ended his season, and that was ugly to see. Gustavo had some good moments last year, had some really bad moments last year.
Some gusto for Gustavo.
He did. Are you surprised by these moves, or does this just feel like, hey, part of the process and we'll see them in the minor leagues?
Yeah, it feels like business as usual, and I think what it opens up, Mike, is those 40-man roster spots. Like you mentioned, again, 7 spots are available, and so you have to hope that the Angels are going to add at the major league level, and it kind of resets the fact that these guys are off the 40-man if they sign minor league deals, and then they can come back and put them on there if they happen to need them at any point during the season. But I will say it feels like business as usual, because if they come back on minor league deals, they're not necessarily on the 40-man roster. And so certainly I think it bodes well for the fact that the Angels are going to add. Now, are they going to add significant players? Are they going to add to areas of need? Well, that's TBD, but of course the trade for Grayson Rodriguez was a huge add, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they know what their issues are, and they have their designs on how to solve them. Of course, you and I have shared multiple times on this show how we would solve them and what areas need to be solved. So we have to wait and see how the Angels decide to add to that 40-man roster and which guys will make the 26-man roster moving into next season.
And speaking of TBD, the Angels did give contracts to all of the arbitration-eligible players. They still have to negotiate what the number is, so that will come soon. But they gave a contract to Connor Brogdon, Jon. Brock Burke was also included in that list. Reid Detmers, Logan O'Hoppe, Jose Soriano, Zach Neto, Joe Adell. All of those guys were tendered a contract. Now, Connor Brogdon is an arbitration-eligible player. He made $1 million. He's up for $1 million this year, estimated. He made $761,000 last season and will be a free agent in 2028. So the Angels have control over him for the next couple of seasons. Brock Burke, He's estimated to make $2 million. This is his third year in arbitration, made 1.15 last season, and will be a free agent after next season. And then Reid Detmers, John, he's estimated to make $2.6 million, made 1.8 last season, and will be a free agent in 2029. And so will the next few players, O'Hoppe, Soriano, and Zach Neto. Zach Neto actually will go to 2030. Each of those guys are up for arbitration, and their numbers are pretty significant compared to where they were last year, right?
Yeah, so now they're starting to make in the millions, right? Logan O'Hoppe, 2.9 estimated arbitration contract, made the league minimum, $760,000 last year. Same thing with Jose Soriano. He'll be estimated to make 3.2, made the league minimum. Zach Neto, 4.1 million estimation, his first year of arbitration, made the league minimum. And then Jo Adell, 5.5 million, up from 2.1 last season. Mike, I got to tell you, for as much as you and I have been on the trade Taylor Ward train for the last couple of years, because we knew that this would be the last year of his contract and that he was a valuable piece, man, I am really surprised that after the 2027 season, Jo Adell is going to be a free agent. That's quick, man.
Yeah.
That's coming up quick. And
yeah,
it makes sense because he got called up in 2020 and he's been up and down, but he finally hit his stride this season. So there are some guys here that you would certainly want to consider offering an extension to. Now, the rule of thumb is that Scott Boras clients like Jo Adell don't usually take extensions. They all like to go to free agency to see what they're going to get. But Jo Adell is kind of a unique case in that it took him a long time to find it, and he's got to prove it that he still has it over the next 2 seasons. So he could be a valuable trade piece in as much as we talked about Taylor Ward being a valuable trade piece, especially with that deadline coming up, so to speak. So what kind of deals do you think these guys are going to get in terms of extensions after this season? Because you and I are of the belief that nobody's really going to get an extension until Rendon's money is off the books after this year. I think we'll see that kind of open up for some of these young guys, and perhaps they'll, pull a Braves where they sign all of their young guys beyond when their free agency hits and beyond when their arbitration runs out. What do you think?
The only guy that I would give an extension to on this list right now would be Zach Neto. Because Zach Neto, I think, is going to be the face of this franchise once Mike Trout is gone. And I know that that's in 5 years, but I think that Zach Neto over the next 5 years could become the guy that Angel fans connect Angel baseball to, and baseball connects Angel baseball to. He's a shortstop, plays that sexy position, right? That's where you want a really good player.
The eyeliner down the face.
Yeah,
right?
He's gritty, he's gutty, he's the guy that's going to be in the highlight reel. He's the Derek Jeter type of player, the kind of guy you want. He would be the guy that I would begin negotiations with. I know he's in his first year of arbitration. I don't think that the Angels would negotiate with him until the Rendon money comes off, and I don't think that they would even negotiate until after next season, which, win or lose, smart or stupid, I think that that's kind of the direction that they're going, because they do have him under contract for 4 more seasons, all the way to 2030. The second guy that I would have negotiation with and begin to talk things through would be Logan O'Hoppe. And I would wait for Logan O'Hoppe's season to be over to even consider that. I think that Zach Neto and Logan O'Hoppe can be pillars for this organization in the future moving forward. John, I know you love Jo Adell, and I have struggled with Jo Adell, but have come to have my heart won over by Jo Adell, especially this last season. But Jo Adell is somebody that I would want to see another really good season from.
Yeah.
And I think he's somebody that I would love to see what he would make on the free agent market, and then come back to the Angels and say, hey, here's what I'm being offered. What will you be able to offer?
Yeah.
But because he's getting older, and because outfielders in the Angels organization are not unusual, they are able to develop these guys in the organization. I don't know if I would extend him anytime soon. I think I would start with infield guys like Neto and like O'Hoppe before I would move to an outfielder like Jo Adell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Jo Adell lands. Mike, he's 26. He'll be 27 on April 8th. And those are the prime years, man. And so if they get 2 of those prime years from Joe Adell in his remaining 2 seasons with the Angels, that's going to be pretty significant. I think another factor to all of this is what happens with a lockout, what happens with a work stoppage. And so for as much as we have been critical of the fact that, like, oh, Kurt Suzuki gets a 1-year deal and we're worried about the Angels just signing guys to 1-year deals, it does make a lot of sense to hold off and wait for that work stoppage dust to settle and that lockout potential to settle before you start negotiating with these guys. But I think I'm with you. I think that Soriano is another one you could add to that list, probably Reid Detmers as well. I am happy to see that Connor Brogdon and Brock Burke will be tendered contracts. And of course, they got to go to arbitration, figure out what they're actually worth in the minds of the player and the team. But Brogdon, man, I think is an underrated part of what went well for the Angels. I know that he had his moments where he struggled, but there were certainly moments where he was a workhorse. And for as much as we called Kenley Jansen a workhorse and the captain of the bullpen, Connor Brogdon was just somebody like, hey, let's bring him out again. I think that that he got overused toward the end of the season. And so I think that has to be taken into consideration. If he's part of a team that doesn't exhaust him into the ground, I think that he could be a really helpful part of the bullpen next season as well.
Yeah, he was in those big late inning moments. And when the Angels rolled him back out because it was extra innings and they were trying to save some arms and Ray Montgomery was trying to figure out what he was going to do, then Brogdon comes back out after some really tough outs in the previous inning, and you want him to get 3 more outs again. And I just think that was misuse, not even overuse, but misuse of Connor Brogdon. And he's somebody that has proven to be great in those late innings. He could be a 7th inning guy. He could be an 8th inning guy. If the Angels re-sign Kenley Jansen, I think that your 7, 8 inning guy is Connor Brogdon right now. I know they have Ben Joyce and I know they have Robert Stevenson, but again, they're injured and they're going to have to work their way back in. But I think that Connor Brogdon has proven himself to at least handle that. And why not? Why not in April and why not in May have Connor Brogdon be that bridge to Kenley Jansen if you re-sign him? And then you can move to a Ben Joyce or a Robert Stevenson, depending on what kind of season they have. John, I think that there's a lot of benefit in having him in this bullpen. And I really like the guy. I think that he's a solid arm that the Angels need in the bullpen. And to have a great bullpen is unique in Anaheim because it hasn't really happened over the last 20, 30 years.
Right. Exactly. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, there's some non-tendered players from other teams. It could be very intriguing for the Angels. They were not tendered contracts and therefore they can become free agents. So who are they? And should the Angels be interested in any of them? We're going to get into all of that coming right up.
Basketball fans, there's no better place to get in on all of the basketball action than with FanDuel. They are the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you love to ride the hot hand in the game that you're watching, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. You can stay engaged, keep the app open, watch it on TV, maybe have it on your phone, and also the app is open and you're having fun bouncing back and forth. FanDuel has live bets on everything, and you can check it out. Even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. They just keep the game really exciting, especially if it's your team. But if it's not your team, you're still going to want to lean in, especially right now. FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, and you're smart. It's going to win. So you're going to get $300 in bonus bets automatically. Head to FanDuel.com. That's where you can get signed up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. Really incredible stuff. And it's thanks to everydayers like you. Check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube or on your smart TV, on your smart devices, of course. And you can hit us up on social media at Locked On Angels on Twitter, at Super Halo Rose, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're everywhere you want to be. What was that? Visa? American Airlines? I can't remember what that was.
I have no idea.
We're everywhere you want to be. I think it was
it's a good line.
MasterCard?
Probably. John, there were other players that were non-tendered from other teams, but there's a few names out there that are really intriguing. And I would say the first name on this list that we're going to talk about might be the most intriguing, and that's Adolis García. Now, he holds a special place in Locked On Rangers host Bryce Paddock's heart in Rangers history because he helped them win the World Series in 2023, which, by the way, was that team just a fluke? Because they have not been good before or after that. We can get into that in just a moment. But, John, he was really good, recording 8 home runs and 22 RBIs in that postseason run, had a 1.108 OPS in those playoffs. He put up 39 home runs and 107 RBIs with an 836 OPS in the regular season that year. But John, his downfall has been ugly. He had an OPS of 684 in 2024 and then 665 in 2025. Still surprising that he got non-tendered because he seemed to be one of the guys that the Rangers were building around, and he was a great piece. He was kind of their Taylor Ward, although people have connected Joe Adell and Adolis García as the same player. But I would say that Adolis García in that lineup was kind of like their Taylor Ward, a guy that, hey, if he was good and played his role, man, he would be really helpful in this lineup. But a surprise non-tendered candidate here, and maybe someone that the Angels should consider. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he was a huge threat in that Rangers lineup, Mike. So for him to not be tendered a contract is very surprising, but it makes sense with what's been going on with his stats recently. And they have the outfield help that they need, in my opinion, to sustain that and move on from Adolis García. However, you feel like maybe they could have made a trade with him. They could have done something with him. To me, it feels like if the Angels had not tendered a contract to Taylor Ward, right? Yeah, and then not gotten Grayson Rodriguez for him, I feel like you could have done some work there with Adolis García. Mike, MJ Melendez is an outfielder for the Royals. Now, he was a catching prospect, but of course he was moved to the outfield, and his name's come up a lot in like, underrated guys you should be paying attention to. But honestly, he hasn't really lived up to his potential even after moving to the outfield. Spent most of 2025 playing for AAA Omaha. One that could be interesting to see what happens with him is Evan Phillips. You remember he was a relief pitcher for the Dodgers, tore his rotator cuff, and then had to go under Tommy John surgery back in May, and he's going to miss the start of 2026. So you wonder if somebody will pull like a Brandon Woodruff with him and bring him back, or at least bring him on. Yeah. Someone else who's really interesting to me, who is also a Ranger, Mike. Yeah. Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim in Anaheim. It's a shame he didn't name his daughter Anna. Now, he too was part of that World Series championship club. 18 home runs and 107 OPS plus. Really great defense. And he had a 4 Fangraphs WAR regular season that year. But in the next 2 years, he's kind of declined on both sides of the ball in terms of batting average and defense behind the dish. He was really one of the more trusted catchers for the Rangers. And so he's had a little bit of a fall off as well. You wonder if Jonah Heim coming to Anaheim, I'm going to keep saying that, and getting him around the likes of Kurt Suzuki would be a good thing. I don't know. What do you say?
Well, you have Travis d'Arnaud and you have Logan O'Hoppe. It depends on what you're going to do with Jonah Heim. He's probably going to sign a major league contract. If the Angels didn't have Travis d'Arnaud, I would say go get him. Go get Jonah Heim right now, because I think he'd be a great backup, and he's a switch hitter, right? He's a switch hitter, and what a benefit to have a catcher that is a switch hitter, and had a really great year in 23, but has fallen off a cliff since then. I would say that he's probably not going to be somebody the Angels would consider, just simply because they already have 2 major league caliber players at catcher, unless they decide to do something with Logan O'Hoppe and move him. I doubt they're going to do that, because I think they want Logan O'Hoppe to be the Benji Molina of this team, right? The Lance Parrish of this team, somebody that's going to carry this team into the future. John, Nathaniel Lowe First baseman was with the Red Sox. He was non-tendered a contract.
Yeah.
He's always somebody. And when I read through this list, by the way, it feels like Angel Killer, Angel Killer, Angel Killer. Right. So should we just sign these guys so that we don't have to play them anymore? What do you think?
You see Alek Manoah on the list too. And he's
literally
an
Angel Killer.
Yeah. Angel Killer in a different sense. Good grief. Mike, Nathaniel Lowe is intriguing to me because of his splits versus righties as a lefty bat. We know that they've needed some true lefties in this lineup.
Yeah.
And last year against lefties, 252 average, 333 on base, 429 slugging. That was good for a 762 OPS. 16 of his 18 home runs came against right-handed pitching, and 74 of his 84 RBIs came against right-handed pitching, which makes sense because you're going to face more right-handers than lefties.
Yeah.
But if you can platoon him and get him in there at some point. Now, I know Sean O'Well is also a first baseman and a lefty as well, so you might have to kind of work some things out there. But I don't think Nathaniel Lowe would be a bad bench piece if the Angels were able to pull that off.
Okay, I'm going to read some names, and you give me a yes or a no if the Angels should check in on these guys. Christopher Morel was an outfielder with the Rays, and he was non-tendered. What do you think? Another outfielder? Should they even consider that, or is it a pass?
It's weird how things fell off for him because remember, he was really great in 2023.
Yeah.
26 homers, 107 games, 821 OPS. Then things just really fell off for him. And now he hit 204, 651 OPS, 29.3% strikeout rate.
Terrible.
That concerns me. It's not something I would want to add to this team. Now, what I can't believe is JJ Bleday getting non-tendered by the A's because he wasn't their like superstar. He wasn't their main part of the cast of characters, so to speak. But Mike, he was only owed like $2 million.
Yeah.
And
he feels like an ace player, right?
Oh, he's a quintessential ace player. But
yeah.
The problem is that the A's, they went out and signed all these guys last year so that they could continue to
pretend
in
that
revenue. Right. And I'm saying that they participate in revenue sharing and they had to add salary. Otherwise they wouldn't get their revenue. Remember, there was a grievance filed against them. And so you think, okay, well, maybe that'll keep them from doing that kind of nonsense again. No, JJ Bleday only owed $2 million and he was non-tendered a contract. So he might be somebody that could be a nice backup outfielder for the Angels, maybe on the level of a fourth outfielder or somebody that they have in AAA that they can call up, right? So he's intriguing to me. The thing is that he had a great 2024, a 762 OPS. And remember, that was not when they went to Sacramento. They were still at the Coliseum at that point. Yeah. So that's something to take into consideration. It's not as if his numbers were inflated. They actually weren't too great last year. But to me, it's like, hey, that's a pretty good, sturdy outfielder who, has the opportunity to bounce back somewhere. And I think that he would be worth paying $2 million. Good grief, A's. Come on.
Yeah. Mike Tauchman is another outfielder. He played with the White Sox last year, the Cubs the year before. John, he's been non-tendered 2 years in a row. He wasn't bad last year. 263, 9 home runs, 756 OPS. John, his walk rate, 11.7.
Yeah.
That's great for his career. Left-handed bat.
Yep.
Maybe somebody the Angels should consider for the outfield. Mark Leiter Jr., right-handed pitcher with the Yankees. He's available. Jake Fraley, another name you might be familiar with. He's available from the Rays. Looking at this list, John, of all of these players, if you had to pick one and you would say, okay, the Angels are going to check in on this guy, and not just check in, but would potentially sign one of these players, who is it?
I think it's Mike Tauchman, to be honest with you. The funny thing is that Todd Welter over at Locked On White Sox was really hoping that all the stock that Tauchman had built before the trade deadline, that the White Sox would capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And then they didn't. And now here they are non-tendering him a contract.
Wild.
Mike, the fact that he's a left-handed corner outfielder, 263, 9 homers. In fact, I kind of want to look at his splits against righties because the fact is if they are able to get somebody who's a left-handed corner outfielder, it kind of solves some of their potential outfield issues. Yeah. Look at this. 272 against righties, 357, 395. Slugging's not fantastic, but 752 OPS, 357 on base. I'll take that. I'll take that. If he's backing up somebody, a right-hander, and he's out there as a lefty, I'd take that 9 times out of 10.
Put him in left field, maybe, right?
100%.
Put him in left field, have Mike Trout go back and forth with him in left field. I think you can have Soler be somebody that just kind of rotates wherever you need him to be, because I think he's lost his spot, to be honest with you. And if they can't trade him, I think that you have to then figure out what you want to do with him. But Mike Tauchman, good defense, walks a lot, good eye at the plate, left-handed bat, could be a good potential for the Angels in 2026.
Yeah, I think he's a very underrated player, and certainly did a lot for the White Sox. And yeah, the fact that they didn't move him at the trade deadline, I think some teams certainly missed out as they were making their playoff pushes last year.
Bleacher Report released their first version of what opening day rosters would look like for each team. Here's what they specifically said about the Angels' starting rotation as opening day roster. They said Yusei Kikuchi, obviously the number 1 pitcher. Number 3 was going to be Jose Soriano. They said number 4 would be Grayson Rodriguez. But, John, it was number 2 and number 5 that were interesting. They said that Michael King would be the number 2 starter for the Halos. So the Halos would have to sign him. And then number 5 would be Walker Buehler. Now, notice that Reid Detmers isn't in that starting rotation. Perry Manassian said that he's going to start. So he's going to be in there. So I guess my first question to you would be, who would you rather have? Would you rather have a Walker Buehler, or would you rather run with Reid Detmers at number 5?
I think I would take Reid Detmers over Walker Buehler just because of the health, Mike. And I think that Reid has had more consistency over his career. He's younger, and I think the ceiling is much, much higher than what they would be able to get out of Walker Buehler. Like, we know who Walker Buehler is, right? And we know what good Reid Detmers look like. We know what bad Reid Detmers looks like. So I guess you kind of know who he is too, but I would rather take the chance, especially in this upcoming year where, Grayson Rodriguez probably not going to pitch the full season, going to be on some kind of innings limit, right? I would rather take the chance with Reid Detmers, give him a chance in that starting rotation, especially with how we saw him take a step forward last year. But Michael King to the Angels is surprising to me. Number 1, because of the qualifying offer. Number 2, I understand that he had some injuries this year, but I think the teams are going to be in on Michael King. I think that that's going to be a really competitive pitcher, and he's going to get a really good deal. And I think he's going to have some of the top teams, even the Yankees, right? They're the ones who traded him to the Padres.
Yeah.
I think even the Yankees might be in on Michael King. So to see him be added to the potential starting rotation for the Angels from Bleacher Report, I'm quite surprised by that. I'm not going to argue with it. Not going to poo-poo that.
Yeah.
But it is quite surprising to say, you think he's going to go there? Because in my opinion, and this is not to say anything about the Angels, I think Michael King is more valuable than that. And I think that it's going to take a pretty significant deal to get to land him on someone's team. And I think that those more competitive teams that are, playoffs or bust are going to be super in on Michael King next season. So that's quite surprising to me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And Bleacher Report said Michael King on a similar deal that Yusei Kikuchi signed. I feel like Michael King is going to get a much better deal than the one that Yusei Kikuchi signed with the Angels last year. So I don't know if that's even going to be reasonable. Now, this is version 1 from Bleacher Report, so I'm sure it's going to change. John, if it does change, do you think that the name Walker Buehler leaves the list first, or do you think Michael King leaves the list first?
If I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's more realistic that the Angels get Walker Buehler than Michael King. So then maybe you're looking at, Kikuchi, Soriano, Detmers, Grayson Rodriguez, and then Walker Buehler as your 1 through 5. Because again, I just don't see, you and I have joked about it, and I've wanted him on our team. You got to sign him in your GM episode, right?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about Michael King for the last couple of weeks now. And so I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to not do that signing. But if I had to choose between those two, I think the more realistic option is Walker Buehler, especially with his ties to Southern California, having been such a long time Dodger. It might be a nice homecoming, so to speak, in the sense that, what did I say on yesterday's show? Players are going to choose to be where they want to be because of comfort and money and all that stuff. And I think that same could be said for Walker Buehler. Now, the other question is, does any of this happen, or do they go with a number 5 like a Caden Dana or a Sam Aldegheri, or dare I say Jack Kohanowitz under pitching coach Mike Maddox? What do you think?
I just think they're going to go and get one more arm. I think that would be the smartest move if the Angels are going to, quote unquote, be competitive. And they've shown us the last 5 years under Perry Minasian that they're going to keep trying to get to the playoffs and not do a full rebuild or not build for something in the future. They're going to try to do what they want to do this year. The fiscal Angels are going to just focus on this year. So it would make sense to me that they go and get another arm, somebody that can fill out this rotation. I think, John, they need 6 arms because Grayson Rodriguez is going to be somebody that you can't count on fully. So I think they're going to need to go and get another arm, and then they're going to need to designate somebody like a Caden Dana or a Sam Aldegheri, or maybe another pitcher in the minor leagues as the one that they're going to use as that 6th arm. My gut says they're going to use Jack Kohanowitz as that 6th arm, and he's going to be the guy that will probably jump up and down to fill in a spot in the starting rotation. Problem is Jack, I think, has a lot to work on. Now, get him around Mike Maddox. Maybe that helps him improve. Who knows? Mike Maddox is a great pitching coach, but he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to help this starting rotation. He's got
to teach him a whole new pitch if Jack Kohanowitz is going to be successful, right?
Mike's not going to be able to see his family. He's not going to be able to go home, right? Because there's a lot of work to do with a lot of these guys. So I think they go and get at least one more arm and fill out this starting rotation, and maybe have like Jack Kohanowitz and somebody else, or maybe sign a minor league guy that has major league experience that could come in and be that 6th arm that they could bring up. Who knows? They're going to get really creative, but I don't think they're going to do anything outside of what they've done the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Grayson Rodriguez move was certainly not something they've done in the last 5 years. So if they make a trade, that's not being the fiscal Angels, it's being the Angels that have a little bit of foresight, a little bit of, looking down the road and saying, hey, we got him this year, and then we've got him for years beyond that. That would be probably the most surprising move of all if that were to happen that way.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're here. It's the best way to stay updated on all things Angels throughout the entire offseason.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. We read all your comments, and oftentimes they are part of the show as well. And they inspire our ideas. They inspire conversation. And so we love having you in there. Mike, tomorrow is Thursday. I was talking about chicken tendies earlier. What about some turkey? We're talking turkey. Because it's Thanksgiving, what do we have on deck?
We're going to share some gratitude. We're also going to share some attitude. So gratitude for those Angels players who we really appreciated when they signed here as free agents and played well, or they were drafted and played well, or maybe even managers and coaches and general managers that came here and played well. We're going to express some gratitude for each of those players and people a part of the organization. But we're also going to throw some attitude, because there were some signings and there were some people that, man, they just didn't pan out. And for whatever reason, they just didn't pan out. Tomorrow, we're going to be unreasonable in our attitude towards those players. We're also going to be very gracious in our gratitude towards those players that we really appreciate. That's tomorrow, a Thanksgiving Day edition of Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, all you sickos who love this team and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Thanksgiving Day.
I'm going to use the phrase, you know what really chaps my hide tomorrow? I'm going to use that phrase.